Alright, this video I'm going to talk about American martial arts. You know, a lot of the stuff is getting through my mind, and it kind of getting me sad when I think about it. You know, because essentially what I'm talking about has a lot to do with racism. And racism brings a lot of pain inside. And I want to get away from the topic because that's exactly what ended up getting me shut down from the past. But at the same time, it's coming up again and again. People are asking questions, and it's hard not to comment on it because this is the foundational root problem of what's going on out there. You know, a lot of the stuff that's going on that's a problem is racism. Racism's all over Hollywood. Racism's all over the martial arts. Racism's all over combat sport. Now, what I'm saying is I stand strong. The way that I see it is that the martial arts comes from the East. Okay? There is conflict in the East just like there's conflict in the West. You know, just like in the West, there's black on black crime, for example. There's violence amongst minorities in the West. So, for example, the Chinese are not necessarily going to get along with the Japanese. So the Japanese have their expression on the martial arts. The Chinese have their expression. And then the Filipinos have their expression. The Thai have their expression. You know, the East, the Koreans have their expression. The East are known for their martial arts within their culture. Somebody else brought up India. India is not known for the martial arts. It's not in their culture. Africa is not known for martial arts. It's not in their culture. Okay, what is Africa known for? Well, in my eyes, they're known for being great at running. So a lot of the marathon runners are going to be coming from Africa. You know, look at Jamaica and how amazing they are in their sprinting and their running. So you look at the Olympics and things like that. What does Africa dominate? Okay, so you got the East, and they're known for the martial arts. The West, Americans, they're not known for the martial arts. It's not in their culture. What America's known for is just their sports. They're great at sports. They're great at football, basketball, boxing, cage fighting, and wrestling, things like that. America is great at their sports. So America thinks that they're practicing martial arts, but they're not. And rather than call it MMA, mixed martial arts, is not martial arts. But if they called it American martial arts, to me it make more sense. It's America's version of the martial arts. Because even though some people would associate karate with martial arts, their expression is not something that, you know, a Chinese person may agree with. And they'll be like, you know what, you guys are not doing it right. That's not real martial arts. So then they'll be like, that's not Chinese martial arts. Okay, that's Japanese martial arts, but that's not the right way. So basically, the Japanese martial arts is representing their own way. And American martial arts is representing their own way. So the cage fighting, they're calling it martial arts. So that's essentially America's version of the martial arts. So if you're like somebody that's non-Chinese or non-Asian and you want to claim martial arts, then you could claim American martial arts. You know, if you're American, it only makes sense. And in order to claim the Chinese martial arts, you need to be Chinese. In order to claim the Japanese martial arts, you need to be Japanese. Now, say you're an American that's non-Asian, and you don't want to claim American martial arts because everybody in America, as far as what's being marketed, they're doing something of which you don't agree with. So say the cage fighting, you don't agree to that, and you don't want to associate yourself with that. So, but then you like what you see out of the Chinese martial arts, like Kung Fu and all the other stuff, and Bruce Lee. But you're not Chinese, and you're American, and you're not Asian. but then you like Kung Fu. But then it could be your own expression in the martial arts, whatever you decide to name it. You know, say it's like Chuck Norris martial arts. He's an American, but he has his own expression of the martial arts that has been inspired by the Chinese martial arts, like Kung Fu, Bruce Lee, and then he could say, well, I practice my own expression of the martial arts, then this is Chuck Norris martial arts. I'm an American, and I've trained with Bruce Lee, and I really like the philosophy of the Chinese martial arts, and that's a big part of what I do. You know, but he is not practicing Kung Fu. He's not practicing the Chinese martial arts. You know, he's an American having his own expression of the martial arts that's been inspired by the Chinese martial arts and Kung Fu. Now, if he was studying under a Chinese person, say he became a disciple of Bruce Lee, and he is Bruce Lee's disciple, and Bruce Lee says, okay, you know, under my guidance, then now you're going to be representing Kung Fu. You're going to represent Jeet Kune Do, okay, and my expression of the Kung Fu. And then he's always going to be under the guidance of Bruce Lee. Then he could claim Kung Fu or Jeet Kune Do according to whatever Bruce Lee decides. And then he's representing the Chinese martial arts under the guidance of Bruce Lee, who is a Chinese person. Okay. But once Bruce Lee dies, or once connection is cut between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, so say Chuck Norris is like, you know what, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to have my own way of teaching. So then Chuck Norris, he can't use Jeet Kune Do anymore, and he shouldn't even use Kung Fu anymore, because as soon as he decides to cut connection with that Chinese person that's representing the Chinese martial arts, then now Chuck Norris is representing something else. It's his own martial art. And he shouldn't say Kung Fu, he shouldn't say Jeet Kune Do, he should open up his own school, label it his own thing, under his own American terminology, or English terminology. You know, he shouldn't be cutting connections with Bruce Lee and then opening up his own school and calling it like Chuck Norris's Kung Fu. No, because he lost connection with that Chinese person. And that Chinese person is supposed to be the one who has the authority over this non-Chinese person to pretty much legitimately associate this non-Chinese person with Kung Fu or the Chinese martial arts. So the connection that you have with that Asian person from whatever country he's from is very important in establishing whether or not you're expressing the martial arts according to what that label is supposed to represent. And the Chinese martial arts is supposed to have more humility and modesty, less ego and pride, less competition, more meditation. But the West is filled with so much competition that it overpowers everything that's soft and gentle. So if you don't have a Chinese person out there who's a master of the martial arts that's going to help you balance out that ego, that pride, that aggressiveness, then you're going to end up being overwhelmed with that competitiveness, and then it's no longer representing the Chinese martial arts. It's representing the American martial arts, the American way, which is like dominance of yang. So that's why all non-Chinese people should not be claiming Kung Fu unless they are associated with a living Chinese master, not a dead one. Because Bruce Lee is dead and he cannot tell you whether or not you're representing Kung Fu the way it's supposed to be represented. And even somebody living like Jet Li, okay, he's living, but he's not your teacher, and he can't evaluate your growth, not just from the physical expression of it, but also from the spiritual. Like, are you truly representing meditation in what you do? Because if you're not, then you shouldn't say Chinese martial arts. You shouldn't say Kung Fu. You should have your own, which is American. And that's dominated by Yang. You know, and you represent your own. Because once you decide to cut ties with that Chinese person, then you're on your own. You know, don't hold on to the labels of which you used to have or you used to use. Once you sever that connection, now you're on your own and you're representing yourself. And you are an American because you were born here in America. And American is what America, America is what America is. It's filled with competition, filled with jealousy, filled with envy, filled with ego and pride, and that's what they're known for. So you look at American martial arts, cage fighting. You look at the Chinese martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, Bruce Lee, Jet Li. Okay, you look at Thailand. Okay, a big name in Thailand is Tony Jaa. Okay, so look at who's representing what. But you see something like Aikido, the founder of Aikido, his name, people probably don't even know. His face, people probably don't even know. But then they're associating like Steven Seagal with Aikido. And look at Steven Seagal, a non-Japanese person who's extremely overweight and unfit, doing all sorts of things that Aikido, that's not what Aikido is. But then the face of Aikido, the founder of Aikido, has been replaced with this non-Japanese person to represent. And that is something that's wrong, because the Aikido belongs to Japan, to Japanese. So it has to stay, the face of it should be the founder, and it shouldn't even change from that, in my opinion. Just like the face of Jeet Kune Do should not change. It should just be Bruce Lee. It should not be replaced with Danny Insano's face. Even though he's Asian, I don't care. It shouldn't be replaced with Danny Insano's face. Even though he was Bruce Lee's friend, I don't care. It shouldn't be replaced with his face. It should not be replaced with Paul Vunak's face, who is Danny Insano's disciple, who's non-Chinese, non-Asian. It shouldn't even be replaced with Shannon Lee's face, who is Bruce Lee's daughter, or Linda Lee's face, who is Bruce Lee's wife, or John Little's face, who translated, who edited Bruce Lee's writings. It shouldn't be replaced with anybody's face. It should remain Bruce Lee's face. That should not be corrupted. And the Chinese martial arts needs a Chinese face, not a white person's face, not a black person's face, not an Indian person's face, not a Thai person's face. No, the Chinese martial arts should be represented by a Chinese person. Now, yes, it will and can be corrupted by Chinese people as well, like a Bruce Lee claiming Kung Fu, and then all of a sudden a Jackie Chan claiming Kung Fu, and then allowing everybody to laugh at Chinese people hysterically. Okay, that happens, but at least it's still a Chinese face, a Chinese person putting down his own race. That's like a comedy where a Chinese person goes in there and starts making fun of himself. Rather than fighting hard to get respect like what Bruce Lee did, he just starts making fun of himself. Okay, but that's the own black on black crime in America that's happening in China, where there's Chinese on Chinese. Because when Bruce Lee was practicing martial arts, he was battling other Chinese martial arts schools and fighting them for, fist fighting them on the streets to pretty much, prove to see which school is better and things like that. There's Chinese on Chinese crime as well. Just because there's no foreigners coming in to disrupt the image of the Chinese martial arts doesn't mean that the Chinese don't battle it on themselves. And that's what Bruce Lee was doing in his movies. He was fighting other Chinese people because that's what happens. But Chinese people, Japanese people, Chinese, Japanese fighting. But there's just a whole racial thing that's going on. And what I'm saying is that in order to be proper with this, we need to find out where our roots are and express ourselves. And that goes along with what Bruce Lee was saying in his teachings. You got to be yourself. So how are you being yourself if you're a non-Chinese person claiming the Chinese martial arts when you are not associated with a Chinese master? That's pretty much what I'm getting to. If you are not associated with a Chinese master, do not claim the Chinese martial arts. And I'm talking about like a direct association where he's living and he's actually teaching you and he's assessing you. That's where I'm getting at. Do not claim something that you did not create. Do not claim something that you did not own. Now, if you happen to be half white, half Chinese like Shannon Lee, then she has the ability to use those Chinese labels because that's a part of who she is. But if you're not half Chinese, then you need to connect with a Chinese master that gives you the right to use those labels. Because if you don't, then there's a very high likelihood that you are not representing the Chinese martial arts because you got too much yang in your expression. And you could say American martial arts, and then you could have your own expression. Label it your own unique expression, your own name. Even the whole Jake Mace thing. If you said Jake Mace martial arts and I like the Chinese martial arts, I like Kung Fu, so I'm going to soften up my stuff and it's not going to be like cage fighting. It's going to be my own way that's integrating some of these ways of the East. And I'm going to call it Jake Mace martial arts and make a boatload of money off this brand. This is not Kung Fu. This is not Chinese martial arts. This is not the Japanese martial arts. This is American martial arts, but this is a different version of the American martial arts. It's not cage fighting, but it's my own expression, which is more peaceful, more humble. Then I would respect that because here you got a non-Chinese person that loves the Chinese culture and he used a lot of that way to create his own way. And then now he's become famous from teaching the martial arts his own way. And create his own brand. You know? But it's not Kung Fu because he's not Chinese. Okay? It's his own way. It's not Shaolin. Okay? It's American. It's American martial arts under this person's guidance. Then I would respect that. You know? So these are some things that I just thought would be good to mention, to think about.